Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Sometimes we just get all the connections up and running seconds before the broadcast. And here we are today. John is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. This is USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us. If you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line is up and running, 605-477-3249. Joey in Michigan is with us. Welcome, Joey.
Hey, good morning, Vince. It's just like every day. Everything is just by the seat of the pants.
Just make it, right? Well, you know, Joey, I was thinking about you. On Wednesday, I was with Mrs. Finelli, and we were in Springfield. And I mentioned this before, but I just wanted to say why I keep mentioning this. And people think, why do I talk about Sears? Well, we went into Sears, and there was no customers, not one. Not one single customer in a very large Sears store in Springfield, Missouri. It's an anchor in the mall. There were 15 cars. I counted exactly 15 cars. One coming towards us makes 16. Us would be 17. But the other car, I think, was just passing through the parking lot. So total of 16 cars. They must have been the employees' cars because there wasn't a single customer in the store in a half hour. Not one. Between 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
I know what you mean. I was in the last big anchor store in Southwest Michigan, Grand Rapids, actually, right before Christmas, returning a screwdriver that was broke because, like you said, they're going out of business. Same thing, 7 cars in the parking lot. But, you know, in fairness, you've got tools. You've got people that don't know how to use tools selling tools. So why would you go to Sears? And before you went to Sears for a credit card, Sears used to finance you. That's why Sears became, after the mail order issue, as the transitions occurred, before there was American Express, MasterCard, whoever, what did you have? You had a Sears card. Everybody's had a Sears card. That made everything doable. Today, everybody's got a card. They give a mud flap a credit card. If you're a mud flap on the back of a truck, here, you can have a card. Whether you pay for it, nobody cares.
You know, that's a really good point, Joey. And I remember my mom using the word charge a plate, CHARGE-A-plate. And you'd get your charge a plate kind of card. You would hand it to the cashier. They would line it up with a carbon type receipt. They would push this lever and it would run a roller over your debossed charge card. And it would give you the imprint that it was actually a card, and then you would sign that particular receipt. They would keep a copy, you'd keep a copy, and they'd throw out the carbon. And yes, you're right. And they were longer and narrower than, you know, a MasterCard or a Visa card. But you're absolutely right. And that was where the charging system got started, with the store credit. And so you didn't have a bank running the show. It was actually Sears that was issuing you your credit for your purchase. You're absolutely right. But the reason I keep mentioning this is we are watching the free fall of the supply chain. And I'm really concerned because Jeff Bezos and his ilk have destroyed the local warehouses that would have inventory and sell you.
Who finances Jeff Bezos? Who finances all these corporate manure can Amazon send you a package for $2 or $3 in the U.S. mail when you and I use the U.S. mail? It costs us $12 or $20. So they're being subsidized on shipping in order to put the stores out, in order to drag you kicking into the next paradigm, we'll call it. You know, it's an illusion. Most people only buy online because it's cheaper. And I guarantee you, once they kill all the, brick and mortar stores, it won't be cheaper anymore. In fact, it'll be the only game in town. You know, the newest thing are more and more, we'll call them utility companies. They're not offering people in an office anymore. If you want to talk to somebody, you got to call 5 states away. You can't go in and dispute a situation. You want to pay your bill and you want to throw it in a flap or hand it to somebody? No, we don't take money over the counter anymore. Yeah, only can send it in the mail. That's because of gearing next. You only take it with a card. And pretty soon, when they do away cash, they'll probably only want to do a Bitcoin or a digital transformation. You know, and listening to you and Rick talk yesterday about money, you know, what is money? If you were in a scenario like the TV series Survivors, you wouldn't need money because all you're trying to do is make the next day and eat. But being caught in this digital nightmare that we're in, everything costs money. You know, last week, I spent over $1,000 in the last 10 days fixing a truck that I didn't even know needed repair. That's just in 10 days. And fortunate for me, I had the extra $1,000. I could put it into the truck. But think about a big picture. Think about, what do you call that thing? A tornado. And when you see it spinning, like in the Wizard Oz, it's grabbing stuff and it's pulling houses and garbage and cars, and it's all floating around in an animated sense. Well, that's what's happening to us as people, as a society. You know, when I asked Rick the question yesterday about analog versus digital, well, analog is much more detailed. Digital is a lot faster. Well, they've gotten rid of the analog because when we used analog phones and we were living in an analog world, it didn't seem like time went by so fast. It seemed like we got a lot more done with a lot less effort. Today, we have every luxury known to man at our fingertips, and we can't get anything done. You seem to have that same problem I have. That most
Absolutely.
Other people I talk. So how does that work?
Absolutely.
Why? We're not the bottom feeders. I mean, we've got common sense. We've got a little bit above average in our thought patterns. We can see things long before the mainstream sees them. You know, and then we go into the next word. What is an actor? What is a television actor? And how are we being manipulated through the television set? Because if you watch, and I don't care which series, take them all, they're preparing people. They're preparing people. I mean, in the early, mid-70s, you had Barney Miller, you had, who's the goofy guy, Stifle Yourself, Eat It. Who am I thinking of?
Oh, Meathead. You had Meathead and Carol O'Connor.
Yeah, so you
Carol
had
O'Connor.
that series. You had Welcome Back, Kotter. From there, you went to all the police shows. Oh, come in, Adam 12. And they were all good. Then they started a new series called SWAT. And those were the guys that saved the day. And then, that was great. And you just watch. If you go back and watch the old television shows, watch your evolution. You went from Andy Griffith and Opie and Grandma or Aunt B. You went through that cycle where everybody was, goody, hometown, home-cooked meals, to all of a sudden we're throwing into a boiling pot, and you're eating at a McDonald's or a Burger King. You're eating processed food, and nobody realizes, because they're in that catch-22 world, who realizes what's really happening? Everybody's sick. Before, when you were a kid growing up, if you knew one person that had either a health issue, and most of it at that time was very seldom did you ever hear of somebody with cancer. It was usually a heart issue, possibly sugar, but other than that, it was an ailment, a broken leg, some kind of a tragedy that occurred that you needed a repair. Today, people feel, I'm at a garage sale. They say, I've got all three. I said, well, there wasn't like a prize for you to have cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. That's not like you should put your hand up and be excited you won the lottery. You should be, oh, yeah, I guess I didn't think about it that way. How would you not think about that? When you cut yourself and you have a cut on your finger, how does that change your whole energy for that day or the next day? Or better yet, when it's worse than a cut, there's a chunk missing, and now you're waiting for that to heal for the next 2 weeks. Every time you bump that scab, that bruise, it puts a knot in your stomach because you're not whole. You feel that when you have a bruise like that?
When I hurt myself on the farm, it ruins my whole day, and sometimes it carries on to the next day, sometimes a whole week, depending on how much I hurt myself. But the reason I hurt myself is I'm actually doing something as compared to someone who's sitting behind a keyboard making appointments for somebody else. You know, I'm talking about like government workers, where all they do is enter data about, other people, us, and complain about how hard they're working. No, you're right. When I hurt myself, I feel it, and it slows me down, and I don't like it, and I get annoyed. I get annoyed that, gosh, I should have prevented it. I tried to prevent it. I couldn't prevent it. Bang. It annoys me because it slows me down. Not only the trip to the kitchen to wash off the blood and, bandage myself up or something like that, or get the ointment put, or depending on if I need help, it slows me down. It slows another person down. And I got things to do. I don't have time to get slowed down. You're right.
So you go back to all these transitions are occurring around us minute by minute and day after day after day. And I always go back to a television actor. Take Clint Eastwood. According to Wikipedia, Clint Eastwood has grossed, films featuring Clint Eastwood has grossed a total of $1.68 billion domestically. Now, that's a pretty impressive number, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Then you got another superhero. They call him Samuel L. Jackson. Now, Sammy from Miami, it says here, according to the box office tracking company, determined that Jackson appeared in more films than any other actor that grossed $1.7 billion domestically. Now, wow, that's amazing. That Samuel L., because I never watched any of his movies up until The Kingsman came out. Other than that, Clint Eastwood movie, I've seen 90% of them. How's that? How's my thought pattern all messed up?
Yeah, he's hard to watch. I'm not talking about Clint Eastwood. I'm talking about Sammy. Hard to watch. Joey in Michigan's with us. Joey, back in the 1970s, I used to love to go to this great big flea market on the East Coast. It was huge. If you got there at the break of day and you wanted to walk through all the aisles of this flea market, you wouldn't be done till mid-afternoon at the earliest. Okay? And all it was, there were some handmade wooden tables that were leaning and falling down, but mostly it was paths through this field. And the grass was all worn down. It was just dirt. And you would rent a spot for like $10, 10-foot by 10-foot spot from the owner of this flea market. And you just put a tarp down, or you just put your items down on the ground, and people would come by and you'd sell them. And I remember I bought a photograph, not a print, but a one-of-a-kind photograph, 18 by 24 or so, of the Hindenburg that was photographed at Lakehurst Naval Air Station on the voyage just before it was blown up. So, you could get really neat things like that. They had oil paintings from the 1800s. I bought a radial arm saw, a Craftsman radial arm saw for $30 back then. I bought lots and lots of rolls of household wire, 12-gauge and 14-gauge wire. We bought a bed from the 1800s. So many really neat things. And then there was a transition. It transitioned to junk from China. So instead of used, old, really good quality things, junk from China, new stuff. And I believe that the new junk has taken over from, the really good quality used things that you used to be able to buy. You could buy, Army uniforms, used Army uniforms from World War II. You could buy ammunition cans. No matter what you wanted to buy, it was there. If you wanted to buy a rowboat, you could find one. If you wanted an outboard engine, you could find one. If you wanted a V8 from a Ford or Chevy or Chrysler, you could find them. Cylinder heads, pistons, bearings. I mean, it was huge. Now, it might take you the whole weekend to find whatever you wanted, but chances are it was probably there. And I've seen this transition. And as I look around, there are hardly very many good used things to buy anymore. Is that what you're seeing in your neck of the woods in Michigan?
The minute a good item, a bargain, a well-priced, high-quality item shows up, it's on Craigslist, it's on there usually, it could be 23 minutes to 2 days. And it's interesting that, Harbor Freight is growing in leaps and bounds. I mean, in leaps and bounds. They brag how many new stores they're opening every day. And yet Sears, the icon of the world you and I grew up in, is now becoming obsolete. And is that by coincidence or is that by design? Well, I'll have to go, there's nothing that's coincidence, always by design. You think about, you go back to a television show, where does it take you? You and I grew up watching TV shows, and today the kids that grow up see a whole different variation of a television show. And that series I suggested to you, Survivors, you're going to watch the 1975-76 version, but when you watch the 9 and 10 version, where the main characters of the 70s happen to be one group of people, and in 9 and 10, the characters are of complete different, because they want to promote a different agenda. They are promoting, and they're using that tool. As most television shows today, they don't show you, like that guy Tool Time Tim was in that movie. No, they don't show you using tools anymore. They show you, I don't know, being bossed around by whoever. Always afraid to go to work because your boss is always got to tell you how to act. So why would you need all the quality tools that you and I are accustomed to?
Very good point. I've got a comment about tools when we come back. Joey in Michigan. Joey, there's a law in economics. It's called Gresham's Law. And it's a monetary principle that states that bad money drives out good money. So, for example, if there's two forms of commodity money in circulation, and they're both accepted and they have a similar face value, the more valuable of the two will gradually disappear from circulation. Now, that's the opposite of what, we would think. Well, this is exactly what is happening all over the United States, actually probably all over the world. So if you apply this Gresham's Law to appliances, you will see that the appliance with the lesser value, the one that won't last as long, the one that's less durable, beats out the one that's more durable. It makes no sense. But if you go to Sears and you talk to the appliance salesman, he'll tell you that, the appliances are lousy. They don't last as long. But yet the generally dumb public is buying these crappy appliances. It's amazing how, when I go to buy an appliance, I'm thinking about, what kind of transmission does it have? How durable is it? How big are the belts, the gears, the bearings? How thick is the tub? How thick is the insulation? How durable is it? How long will the timer last? How long will the valves last? Can I replace them myself? I don't look at it and say, honey, this is, look at the appearance of that. Is that nice looking or what?
But Vince, when you buy something, you're paying cash. You're not putting it on a charge card. 90%, I'm sure, at least 90% of the people buying any widget today are putting it on a charge card. And all they're trying to do is make the day. They're a hamster in a wheel running after whatever they're giving them, a carrot, and they love it. And they want to tell everybody they bought a new stove or refrigerator. You know what you were saying, the warranties. To go into a appliance store and they're proud to advertise a 5-year warranty on a brand new refrigerator. I said, look, I don't want to rent this thing. I want to buy one. Buying one means like when my mom and dad bought one, it was 30 years old. It's 35 years old. I don't want to buy one for 5 years for $1,000. It's basically like renting it for $200 a year. What kind of ridiculous thing is that? And yet everybody, and you know what? I want to have a new one. I'm going to have they'll come out with a better one. How much better is better when it's 5 years versus 35 years? You know, you and I are dinosaurs, apparently.
You know, Joey, I've mentioned on the air that you're a very frugal guy. And I want to define that for our class. When I say Joey's frugal and when I say I'm frugal, well, when I talk about Joey being frugal, that's a compliment. And I'll tell you why it's a compliment. Because you have to be well-researched. You have to be well-informed. You have to be pretty darn bright to be frugal. Anybody who's stupid can spend a lot of money if they have it. You don't have to be bright to waste money. The proof is people are doing it every day. You've got to be bright not to waste money. You've got to be bright to ferret out those good deals. You've got to be bright to figure out which is the best of the best. And so that you avoid the trap of Gresham's law, which is bad products driving out good products. And here's the proof, just a little bit more proof. We talked about the appliances. You can go to a big box store and you can look at an Asian branded refrigerator, and you can close, side by side, and you can close the refrigerator door and the freezer door will pop open just from the air pressure, because the mass is so thin, so weak, so light. The door is so light, the skin is so light on the door that just the breeze of closing normally the refrigerator door will pop open the freezer door. And yet people are saying, this is awesome. This is stainless steel. This looks beautiful. So they're buying these crappy products made in Asia instead of buying the good, durable, heavier products like Whirlpool used to be, like Frigidaire used to be, like Philco used to be. General Motors used to make washing machines, believe it or not. And they were awesome. They really were. Ford Philco made washing machines, and they were awesome. And General Motors had an agitator that was different. Instead of going back and forth, turning to the right, stopping, turning to the left, stopping, it would go up and down, and it would push the water through the clothes. Really great product. Made by General Motors in the 60s. Bad products chased out that. Philco made one. One second. Philco made one with a wobble agitator. So it would just spin around and around. It did not go back and forth. It was not a reciprocating motion. It would just go round and round with a wobble plate with rubber fins on it, and it would push the water through the clothes. We had one. It was fabulous. Now, the problem with it is it would tend to knot up the clothes, but it was easier on the clothes. It was a better machine, and yet it was driven out by more inferior products. Joey?
When you make a machine that lasts 30 years versus 5 years, look at the jobs you created. Take Harbor Freight. Harbor Freight's bragging on their website. They're opening a new store every 3 days. Wow, every 3 days. When you go to Wikipedia, Harbor Freight has 900 current locations, 17,000 employees, and $5 billion in revenue last year. And the neat thing about Harbor Freight is, hey, can we have your phone number? Hey, we'll send you these coupons. So they're, what's the word? They're profiling you because they see what you buy. They send, and they will send you more coupons because coupons. I met a lady in a Goodwill store being frugal the other day, and she goes, "Yeah, I don't like to give my information out." And she uses her card. And I says, "Well, what do you use the card for?" "Oh, I get money for using my card." I said, "Yeah, okay." And frugal. I don't know. All I can suggest to the class, if they're listening, however you want to determine it, if you need something, today is the day to buy it. Tomorrow it may not be there, and if it is, it may even cost $5 more than today. Because as the inflation is starting to kick in because of the value, we're up to about, almost 22 trillion in the deficit. I haven't been to debtclock.org lately. But I know we should have been at 24 trillion because when the government voted a $2 trillion extension to the deficit from May to September, and the current clock was going to be it was already $20 trillion. My numbers say it's 24 trillion, but they claim right after it goes to 20 trillion, you can never, even at 1% interest, you can never leave the debt cycle. The debt will always increase. Listening to John Regan's statistics the other day on Wednesday were way beyond incredible. I mean, and people think this is, so you've got three choices. You're on the deck of the Titanic. You don't know the boat's going down. Enjoy it. Have a drink, listen to the music, slide on the ice, and live your life like you're living a fantasy. Don't even listen to this show and don't waste your time. If you are a little more frugal, you may want to make considerations because there's no guarantee with whatever's coming, whether it's the magnetic pole shifts, whether it may be a financial collapse, whether it could be Planet X or Nibiru coming and that's changing our life patterns, because obviously people are genetically changing. Energy frequencies are changing us. I don't know how it works. I'm no genius. One thing I'm good at is seeing change. I see things and I see people. I either like people or I don't like them. And they can be very nice, but I just get a bad feeling and I like to stay away from them. So I don't have an answer to this, and you and I can't solve every mystery. I mean, it's up to everybody to wake up.
As you say that, I was thinking about changes. And here's a change that I remember back in the 1960s when my mom or dad wanted to buy paint for our house, whether it be interior or exterior. The name weather beater came to mind. Okay. If it was exterior paint, my dad would go to Sears and he would talk to the salesperson who actually was a professional salesperson. He actually knew about what he was selling. He wasn't like some guy at Home Depot or Lowe's that, they say, "Hey, listen, will you work for less than anybody else? Great, you're hired." It wasn't like that. The Sears employees were trained. They knew their department, and they were career salespeople for Sears. They liked what they did, and many of them lasted decades in that same job at Sears. Well, Sears stopped selling paint in 2012. 6 years ago, they stopped selling paint. What were they thinking? What were they thinking? They had a great department. The paint department was a very important part of Sears, just like the tool department was a very important part of Sears. And they got rid of that. They got rid of the paint department. They've lost their minds.
Look at the price side, Vince. They got rid of the paint department. They got rid of all the departments, which opened the way for Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards. Menards was listed, I don't know, a year or two ago as one of the top Fortune 500, top 50 in the Fortune 500 companies. Now, how does a company like Menards? But one thing about a Menards, a Home Depot, a Lowe's, they have a beautiful building, concrete. They're pre-stressed concrete panels. They're built right in place. They have beautiful courtyards. They're all asphalted. They have usually 12-foot fences all around them. Our Menards in our area have all taken the contractor desk from the front of the store and put it in a far back corner. That was a great idea. And that way, and it's all set up, and it makes it great. If you had a pandemic, you could bring a busload of people in and process them in that back corner inside the compound, whereas in the front corner, it'd be a little more difficult. So don't think about what they're offering. Look at what they're doing.
Joey in Michigan's with us. And, Joey, you mentioned Walmart's, the store, large parking lot. In 2015, there was kind of a shock that went through the news very briefly, and then it stopped because Walmart was closing stores, and they said due to plumbing problems. It didn't really make much sense. But it makes a lot of sense if you think about how a Walmart store is constructed, a supercenter. The big parking lot, they've got one or two ways into the store, two front doors, a back door that's easily locked, no windows, and there's bars above the skylights so you can't get in or can't get out. It makes a great prison. The problem is that if you had a lot of prisoners in there, you'd need to upgrade the plumbing, So more bathroom facilities and maybe a lagoon or a bigger pipe to the municipal water system and sewer system. And, they've got a cooking area. They've got inventory right there. They got plenty of toilet paper, plenty of coffee, plenty of food. What a great facility to easily convert into a prison. What do you think?
One thing you'll notice about the stores as of the first thing I noticed in January, most of the stores I go into, they start taking down second, like stores have 2 aisles high. Menards have storage at one height, and then they have a double-decker. They've taken all the upstairs parts off, so now you can see over all the counters. That means they now have half the product in the store. And the rows are getting wider. That means they're taking like maybe every 5th row out, stretching them out, because they need less and less. People are buying less is what I see. Before we run out of time, I want to suggest to you, I sent you a video. It's called Your DNA is Being Weaponized. And after you listen to that, if you find it as interesting and as scary as I did, I would ask you to put that link listed on the page so anybody listening can figure out how your DNA is being weaponized. I listened to it already this morning, but I'm going to re-listen to it a few more times to get different opinions in my mind about it. But yeah, back to the stores, the Home Depots, the Menards, every big box store, go by them and look. And they put every mom and pop lumberyard out. And they no longer want a mom and pop lumberyard. That's a dead cow. And really, we're not going to need a lumber yard. If the economy collapses, who's going to need any lumber? Unless you're burning it in a wood stove, and it's a little too much money to burn lumber. At the end of the day, are we better off today, or were we better off 30 years ago? Because 30 years ago, we had more street smarts. We were more family-oriented as a group of people. Families got together for parties. There would be 50 or 75 of your relatives all gathering. Today, most relatives don't talk to each other. And if they do get together, there might be 20 or 25 out of the 50 or 75. So I see our world in a whole different world. The only group of people that I notice that have big parties are the Mexican people, because they're first generation. They've been here. You can always tell in my area where there's a Mexican family, because for Easter, for Christmas, for Thanksgiving, there's 30 cars in their yard, because they still get together and they still stick together. Whereas today, everybody's worried about each other. Oh, you have too much. Oh, you're selfish. Oh, you're a bully. Oh, you're simple. Whatever the complaint is. And I'm not looking to point a finger at anybody. I'm looking to point it out. So, because when you're in a rush world, I got to hurry it up. I got to pick up little Debbie and take little Johnny to soccer practice, because he's going to be a superhero someday, because he deserves that. And little Johnny and Debbie, they don't know how to grow a garden. They don't even know how to clean with a push broom their driveways because their parents, we don't want our little kids to learn how to use a push broom. And everybody's in their own little world.
And no question about it. We've become me first. Just look at the roads. Look at the drivers in front of you cutting you off. The guy's riding your tail because he just can't stand you being in front of him. It's everywhere you look. You're absolutely right. It's getting worse. And these are the good days. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. And if you'd like to call us, we're going to be talking about smart meters. Stopping smart meters. The dangers of smart meters. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. Joe Esposito's with us. His website, StopSmartMetersInOklahoma.org. StopSmartMetersInOklahoma.org. Joe, I understand you're going to be presenting at an event coming up February 2nd. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Oh, yeah. I'm really excited about this. I've been trying to get the message out, and so I went to my local library where I'm at right now, and they kind of didn't go along too much with all that for some reason. And then I went to a town a little bit north. It's called Claremore. And I went to the Will Rogers Public Library and presented my little flyer. And they looked at it, and they said, okay, let's do it. And so we're set up to do it on February the 2nd. It's a Saturday, and it's from 10 to 12. And let me just read you real quick. It's not very long. And I'm presenting wireless utilities, friend or foe. It says, meet Mr. Joe Esposito has been learning about the advancement of wireless communications since November 7, 2012. His purpose is to inform the public about the advancement of wireless transmissions used by the Oklahoma utilities, electric, gas, and water, and the biological effects of these transmissions upon an unsuspecting public. Documents will be provided showing new science evidence associating radio frequency radiation with different sources of cancer development, cancer promotion. RF is also known as non-thermal, non-ionizing pulsed microwave radiation. There will be equipment on hand to demonstrate this radiation, which the human body cannot see, hear, smell, touch, or taste. There will be demonstrations live using non-thermal pulsed microwaves to show this radiation to the audience. And before they come, I'm asking them to listen to a YouTube, Dana Ashley, A-S-H-L-I-E, Wireless Warfare Exposed, an hour and 15 minutes. And so we're on, and we're going to do this. And so I'm really pumped and excited about it because Claremore, I went there when they were putting in the smart meters, GE smart meters. I went to the city council meetings. We had this whole big thing. There's one lady, Shealy, Madison Taylor, got one bill, was $1,300 for 1 month. And they made her pay it. And there was all sorts of people going crazy up there. There's other people, too, that were getting big bills. This whole thing is a sham. And so now the science has caught up with these people. Okay, the utilities were just fall guys. They went along with the little program because what they were told, because they're going to make money and all this stuff. But, the science is caught up, and we have the science now. And so we can go after them, and we need to go after them. I got a bill, it's a 12-page bill here in Oklahoma, 2872 last year, and they killed it. It was 12 pages written by a constitutional attorney, and it would have taken out all the wireless utilities. So this last couple of weeks, I learned of another fella, incredible doctor, Dr. Paul Dart, M.D. He's in Eugene, Oregon. He spent 15 months. Now, mind you, an M.D. doctor spent 15 months, and there was other doctors involved in all this. And this is like February 6, 2013. And he went to the Oregon State Legislature and presented two, he had about three documents, actually. It was two that were 106 pages documenting what's happening. did an excellent job. And then he has a report with all the doctors' names on it there and everything. And it was just amazing. And so, like, you know, and then see, I've got my documents. So mine are the current documents. And if he would have had, in my opinion, if he would have had the documents I have today, they could have probably shut the whole thing down. All right? So here, let me just tell you on air. I mean, I kind of opening myself up here. But if you want to call 918-274-8111, that's my home phone. There's an answering machine there. I will send you my documents, and I will send you Dr. Paul Dart's documents, email. It will cost you nothing. And if you can't get me, just stay on me, and because it's going to get overwhelming, I imagine. But I'm on. People are calling me from all over the country because of that one YouTube. And Vince, let me just share. It'd be easier to get to me if you go to YouTube channel, punch in the YouTube search engine, punch in Joe Esposito, Esposito, Smart Meters Owasso, Owasso. If you'll do that, there's one YouTube there that's like pushing, I think it's like 265,000 hits now. And so I get calls from all over the country, and I'm helping people work through all this and teach them. And so, like, this one girl, she's in Oregon, and she called, she's beside herself, you know, and so she calls her state senator and kind of, she doesn't understand, you know what I mean, what's happening. I'm on 7 years of this now. And so I called her senator and said, I'm representing this lady, and I send her the documents, right? Because nobody's ever seen all these things. They just believe the utilities, and the utilities are just a bunch of fluff. They don't even know what they're doing to people. I mean, they are destroying life here. This is weaponized warfare radiation. And so I'm really excited, Vince, at what we got going on here right now.
Joe, you said weaponized warfare radiation. So I just looked up the definition of premeditated murder. And according to the Internet definition, the term is used to describe a murder that was planned in advance and carried out willfully. That sounds like what we're talking about. Weaponized warfare, non-ionizing radiation, delivery of slow cancer, delivery of debilitating diseases.
Correct.
We're talking about murder. Now, that's what's happening to us. Now, since that's the case, I think we need to go after the CEOs and the boards of directors and all of the top management, the vice presidents of all of the electric cooperatives and utility companies who have deployed smart meters. We need to go after them for premeditated murder with no hiding behind the corporate shield.
No, you're absolutely
no
right.
protection.
And let me just say, the word you just used, deployed, is their term. It's a military term.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what they've done, and it's not like I opted in. It's not like some guy sent me a letter and said, would you like one of these? These are wonderful. We can monitor your electric usage. We can bill you by time of usage. We can shut off your meter remotely. And it will use electromagnetic radiation, non-ionizing radiation. It's going to be wonderful. Would you like one, Mr. Finelli? That didn't happen. They sent a thug over to my house who threatened to call the sheriff and have me arrested if I stood in the way of him installing a cancer delivery device on my house. Now, the problem is, Joe Esposito, that we're all addicted to electricity. We're addicted to it. We've got refrigerators, we've got freezers, we've got basements, and if we shut off our electricity, we'll have mold growing in our basements, and we'll die in our own homes from black mold. We have willfully submitted to this over time. We're stupid. However, we can fight back. And I think I'm going to send an email to the CEO of Laclede Electric right after this broadcast, telling him I want my smart meter removed because I consider what's happening is premeditated murder. And I want to see what he has to say. The worst case is I'm just going to be running up the electric utilities legal bills because I'm going to put them in panic. Because I'm going to tell them that I'm going to go after each and every member of the board and top management for not removing it if they don't remove it.
No, that's what needs to be done. You're absolutely right. Right.
I despise these people. I literally despise these people. They had one of their parasites, who was a director, attack me publicly at a meeting of thousands of people because I said that I will not tolerate trash being dumped on my property. I will not tolerate poaching on my property, killing animals on my property, and there's a fine for people dumping trash on my property. They said that I was not civil. Really? Really?
What are they
these
doing?
Are people. Right. What are they doing? You want to go see the CEO of Laclede Electric Cooperative, you got to have an appointment. And if he doesn't want to see you, he's not going to see you.
That's right.
I mean, they've got walls around them. They've got locked doors, locked gates. There's a gate around the compound for the electric utility.
Yeah, you're right.
They're afraid of us. And they should be. They should be because we outnumber them. But what they do is they attack us en masse. It's just us. Well,
they
just
attack us one at a time.
Well, no, what I mean is they're en masse. They have a bunch of people that show up against one of us.
Or they go to the little lady's door that didn't want the meter. While the guy's talking, the other guy jumps the fence and pulls her meter.
Right.
They're crooks.
Well, they're murderers.
It's
and
criminal
crooks.
assault, involuntary human experimentation. This is genocide.
I guess they're non-convicted criminals. That's really what they are. Unconvicted criminals. Let's talk a little bit more about what do we do to stop these smart meters. Joe Esposito's with us, and the website StopSmartMetersInOklahoma.org. StopSmartMetersInOklahoma.org. So, Joe Esposito, we want to get rid of these smart meters, and before we get into the discussion of how to stop them, let me ask you this: do you know of any smart meters that are UL certified?
Not really, but I think there was one GE meter that I think maybe they did certify, but I'm not sure of that. But all the others never have been certified. No, none of them, no.
Okay, because I looked at mine. Mine is not a General Electric smart meter, and there is no UL certification. Now, if a house burns down, if there's a fire, if a smart meter causes my backyard to burn and it takes down the garden and, the garage and the barn and my equipment in my house, do I come after the electric utility?
Well, that's a good issue. There is a fella that has gone after the utilities because of that, and he's actually won on that basis. I'm trying to remember his name right off, but I can't do it. But the class has to understand that the Lloyds of London in 2015 withdrew all liability from wireless. There is no coverage for wireless. That's the largest insurer in the world, Lloyds of London. So it's kind of up in the air right now because I filed a document at the Corporation Commission when I was fighting there with AEPPSO to exceptions to an administrative law judge, and the judge said there's no reported fires, and so I told the commissioners, because I worked with private investigators here in Oklahoma, there are fires, yes, but there's no place to report the fires. There's no box that you check and say smart meter fire, because the utilities come in and take the meters. They take the evidence, before anybody ever gets there, right? So I mean, the whole thing is a big mess right now.
You have to hate these people. I mean, you literally have to hate these people who work for these large corporations who are willing to harm us, their customers, directly harm their customers.
Let me just share this. Let me just share
steal the evidence.
This Dr. Dart that did these documents that I'm telling you about, on his report, his overall report, I think it's on page 36 or 37, he's talking about back in the 50s, and so the Russians and the U.S. government were kind of at odds with each other over this radiation. And the Russians were saying, just a little bit of radiation is damaging and hurts you. And the Americans said, well, we don't think so. So what the Russians did, it's well known, back in the 50s, they radiated the U.S. embassy for like 20 years. And the 3 ambassadors all got terrible diseases like bleeding eyes and the staff got breast cancer and the children got leukemia. And Dr. Dart wrote in his document that the outside of the building was being hit with 5 microwatts per centimeter squared. Now, don't get hung up on the measurement. And so he said inside was less, okay? So I did the calculations. Now, I'm not a math expert, and I'm willing to, tell people that. But we need to go back and look at that like I did, and that's what we need to do. Because I calculated out with what that is in microwatts per meter squared. Okay, it's just a difference in measurement, and that's what my meter measures. Well, do you realize that in AEP PSO's documents, their own documents, they say their meters are transmitting at 400,000 microwatts per meter squared. That's within the range that the Russians were hitting the U.S. embassy that all these people got cancer.
Yep, and then, so, Joe, we've said this before. So if you live in a neighborhood and your house is, 20 feet from your neighbor's house, and they've got a smart meter and you do, and everyone around you has one, and they're all talking to each other. And then one of them is a collector, and then that one transmits to a tower someplace or a receiver someplace, and the collectors all transmit the surrounding smart meters. So we're in a mesh, we're in a grid, we are in a matrix, and there's no escape. Joe Esposito's with us. Joe, one of our instructors, Bert Bertonis, gave me a device years ago made by TrendNet, TrendNet. It's about the size of a deck of cards, but much thinner. You can put this thing in your pocket. You push a button, and it will detect 2.4 gigahertz frequencies. And I turned it on and shoot all over my house, except in remote parts of the basement. I've got electromagnetic radiation in a 2.4 gigahertz band. I can't find it. So, and that's another part of a discussion. But so here's what I did. When I traveled to Springfield last week, I had it in my pocket. I checked it and checked the doctor's offices. Full of electromagnetic radiation in the 2.4 gigahertz band. I was in the hospital. I checked the hospital. It's there. It's in the parking lots of the hospitals, stores. It's on the highways. Traveling in my 22-year-old mechanically fuel injected diesel. No computer controlled diesel. It's in my car. No matter where I go, it's on the highways, the byways, the back roads. It is everywhere, literally. And I live in the middle of nowhere. Are you seeing the same thing, Joe?
Oh, absolutely. Let me just back up for a second. I'll answer that. But you were just talking about living in a sea of radiation. In the documents that I send out, I have Tulsa University. There's 120 cell. You go to antennasearch.com. You punch in your address, and you can find your own cell towers and antennas. But at TU, there's 120 cell towers in a 4-mile radius and 613 antennas. communications antennas. Do you know how devastating that is? It's awful. And it's just like what you're saying. And you're right in what you're saying. That's why I'm to the point, after doing this for as long as I've done it, people need to be sleeping in Faraday cages. It's just too much now. It's just there's a place here in Tulsa, 81st and Mingo. There's an eating establishment there. This other lady wants me to come meet her once in a while. There's 3 layers of cell tower panels. The panels used to be, and I didn't measure any of them, but they look like, say, they're 6 inches wide by, 3 feet tall. They're now doubling those panels. They're getting bigger, and they're as tall as a man now. I've seen the men up working on them. I've watched them. And so, they just keep ramping all this up, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And unless you have a meter, the one I have, I've had it for almost going on 7 years now. It's an HFE 35C, Safe Living Technologies. I don't make any money from any of these. They're like $743. But unless you have a meter, you'll never know what's even happening out there. And if you're trying to, build a Faraday cage and protect yourself, you have to know that you've built it properly. So when you're finished, you go inside and check it, make sure there's no radiation. So that's crucial to know all these things. But the only way you're going to know it is if you have a meter, because people don't even know what's happening. And it's just devastating to drive around these cell towers that it's just astronomically bad. And you see kids and people playing or working or doing whatever, or just like, say, there's that cell tower there on 81st. There's a high-rise building right to the north. It's like 6 or 8 stories. Well, all those people in those offices are getting creamed. You just have to go in and read them. That's why you need to show them the meter and to show people what's happening, because they don't understand. You're right, Vince. What you're saying, you're right.
Because they can't taste it, because they can't smell it, and most people can't feel it, they don't think it exists. So I went to...
That's why I'm doing this lecture. That's why I'm trying to bring the stuff to the people. Listen, I did one for my water department. Remember, I got to go to my rural water department.
Yeah.
And I got their head guy that works there, their manager guy. He's a young guy. He's a very nice guy. And I had this room with 7, board guys. It was their kind of lunchroom thing. And I brought my microwave, which is pretty good size. But I just use it for demonstrations. That's 2.4 gigahertz then. So they had a little microwave in there. So I said, well, I'll just use theirs. And so I stood this manager guy in front of me. There was the microwave was against the wall. I stood him between me and that microwave. He was facing it. I held my meter out on either side of us to the right. The guy hit the button for 30 seconds, and you could hear it come on, and my meter's going, rrr. And so I held my meter right directly in the center of that guy's back, and you could still hear it. That's because it was going through him. People don't understand. That's what Jerry Flynn is telling you. That's what this 26-year microwave radiation warfare expert guy in Canada. He's a captain. He's retired, but he's telling you. This radiation, it penetrates all the organs and organ systems of the body. They're thus putting the human organ systems at risk. This is precisely why these frequencies are used in microwave weapons of war. That's why this is weaponized radiation. Hello, class?
Yeah. Joe, when you go on stage, here's something you might want to consider. You might want to bring a tube of toothpaste with you.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because if you read the box, the outside of the box, or if you read the tube itself, you will read the following words. If you accidentally swallow more than is used for brushing, seek professional help or contact a poison control center immediately.
Oh, wow.
That's what it says. That's what it says. So then you can say, I'll tell you what, I just have and then bring a plastic spoon, a clean spoon, and say, would any of you, can I get a volunteer to come on up here and just eat this?
Right.
I mean, you've used it this morning. It can be Crest, McLean's. It doesn't matter. Colgate, Palmolive. It doesn't matter. All of them say this.
Right.
Because it's deadly. But has anyone read the box? Probably not. Has anyone read the tube? No. So if they tell you that it's okay, these smart meters and these cell phones are okay, it's because they don't know.
No.
Even if it's in front of them, they don't know. Even when the warning says that. So I'm really frustrated.
No warning on it. That's the trouble.
Right. There's no warning. There's no warning. But you look everywhere. We are diseased. We are really sick. I don't know a single family that can't say that they don't have someone with cancer in their family. Every family. And when I was growing up, if you add up all the years from kindergarten through high school, senior year of high school, I only know of one family that had one person that had cancer. One. Now it's every family. Every family has someone in it with cancer or died of cancer. And yet we're allowing these murderers, these premeditated murderers, to kill us. And I don't know why we haven't, farmers who have tractors haven't pulled down these antennas. I don't know why these cell tower antennas haven't been used for target practice. I don't know why. I'm not suggesting that people do it. That's my disclaimer. So when the government corporation or these other corporations decide they're going to attack me, I'm not calling for that. I just don't understand why it hasn't been done.
Well, there's going to be, you're right, there's going to be a time when the public's going to be waking up to all this, and they're going to keep saying, well, this is just a little bit of radiation, and besides, the weight of the evidence doesn't show that this is causing that. But yet Anthony B. Miller, World Health Advisor, epidemiologist, oncologist, MD, comes out and now says, back when he was working with all this, he says, well, 2015 or 12, whatever it was, is this radiation was possible to be carcinogen. And now he's coming out, last year, he's saying this needs to be a group 1 carcinogen, which means absolutely causes cancer. So he's saying wireless from any source is a cancer promoter and a cancer development. That's what it's doing. That's what's happening. And it's just at record proportions now. And so at some point, what you're saying, I'm not recommending that happen either. I'm a man of law, But I just remember I put my house on the market. I just put out a house for sale thing, and I'm exposing all the radiation in my house. I'm saying if somebody wants to buy my house, they have to, sign a release of liability. And so I'm going after the Corporation Commission because they've allowed it to just, get the utilities to have a free pass. I'm going after the Oklahoma Real Estate Department because they're not making disclosures on the radiation that's coming into my house or anywhere. And I'm going after the state legislature because we give them the bills. They won't pass it because they're getting too much money in the pocket from the utilities. And even the United States Congress, who back in 96, when they passed this legislation, the Telecom Act, that they said you couldn't sue them because of health and environmental reasons. And then, in the documents, I will email people. George Carlo was the guy that brought all this in. He was a lawyer, epidemiologist for the utilities and the government. And he says, we felt, the word is felt, F-E-L-T. Write that down, class, F-E-L-T. Explain to me where the science is on that. Please. They allow the free pass for all the military in '84 is the only people who had wireless, and they brought that to the public. But there was no testing. The FDA, EPA, they just let it all go past too. They didn't do anything.
Joe Esposito's with us. Joe, what you said is absolutely brilliant, and I just connected some dots. And I want to flesh this out with you. So in March 28th of 1979, there was a nuclear meltdown at 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania. Shortly thereafter, people didn't want to live there because they learned about the dangers of the radiation that went into the air in the surrounding area. And there was a home that was available on the market. It was $1 million home, and it was offered at $25,000. No offers. Nobody wanted to buy that home because of the radiation that had devalued that property. So what is that property worth if no one is willing to buy it? What would the appraised value of that property be? Now, here's the rest of the story. So if we put an ad in the newspaper and we say, we are now accepting offers for our home. If you're interested in placing an offer to purchase our home, we are entertaining offers. Any and all offers may be rejected for any reason. Please bear in mind that more information is available about this home on this website, including the risks and dangers that are associated with this property and this home. And then you link to the articles about the non-ionizing radiation, the cancer-causing radiation that's on the property from the cell towers, the overhead satellites, the power lines, the microwaves, all of it. And then you say, please submit your offer in writing. And then what you do is you take those offers, if you ever get any, to your assessor. And you say, you've assessed our home at $100,000 or $200,000 or whatever the number is, but it's not worth that. Why is it not worth that? Because if you look at the internet, they'll tell you that a home value is determined, or property taxes are based on the estimated market value of your home. Your local assessor determines the estimated market value of the properties in your area. And that's what's used to determine your tax amount. So now if you say, I have a property that's worth nothing, and I've proved it because here's the article or the advertisement that I put in the paper. Here's the website. You can go to it now. There are no offers, not one, zero, zip, nada. I'm not paying any taxes because my home is worth nothing because the electric utility company has deployed cancer-causing radiation on my property, and I'm not paying you taxes until you can prove my property has value.
That's brilliant. That really is brilliant. We got to go for that. I'm telling you, that's what I'm trying to do at my house right now. I've listed the four problems. The St. John's Hospital antenna, it's 900 feet to my south. I forget the name of the company, the wires. I don't have all my documents in front of me right now. The name of the tower company, the Oklahoma Natural Gas, that's transmitting 250,000 microwatts every 15 seconds on the gas meters, and AEP PSO, that's transmitting, 14,000 to 190,000 times a day. All they're wireless. So I'm going after those four people because I'm being run out of my home. I can no longer live there. I can't grow my garden. My plants don't grow. The bees, the cattle I used to raise, 3, steers there. I can't do any of it. I'm being run out of my home because of wireless. I have to wear a $2,000 suit to protect myself anymore. Okay,
Joe,
you're brilliant. What you just said. We need to work that up into a document to give to the public. And because I'm telling you, where I live, every house around me is exactly in the same boat, but they don't know it.
And there's another thing that we can do. We can get the most outrageous millennial. Her name is Alexandria Ocasio, 29 years old. She is a Congress critter, and she's tearing up Congress. If we get her on our side, this word will get out. So we can turn this F word using Congress critter into a someone who can help our cause. I'm going to contact your office right after the broadcast. But Joe, let's go after what our homes have been devalued and stop paying taxes.
There you are.
I think that's a great way to do it.
Okay.
Joe, thank you.